Good morning, Bitcoiners. I hope you're doing well. We got a new setup today. We're doing our best. That's why we were a little bit late. I'm displeased with the slight screen coloration change that I'm seeing. Let me try a few things here. How does that help? No, that just brightens it. No, not reflect that light. Give me 1 second, team. Give me 1 second. Way too bright in the background now. This screen was too big, perhaps. Perhaps I got to go back to the old system. We'll see. Yay! Well, we'll see, Tommy. We'll see. We'll see. Good morning. We'll see if this works. We don't like the extra brightness, right? Maybe that's the ticket. Maybe I got to let more light in. Maybe I got to let more light in. No, that's too shit. That's not the answer, huh? That's not the answer. All right, let's see. Florida in the house. French fry. We love it. Did I not get Tommy's up there? Let me put Tommy's on. What's going on? There we go. There we go. Figured it out. Good morning, Christine. Good morning, Christine. Hope you're doing well. Hope you're doing well. Did that come through? Yeah. French fry. Florida in the house. We love Florida. Pull the blinds down a tiny bit and less bright. Yeah, you think so, Tommy? Okay, give me a second, everyone. Oh, that's not fun. That one just increases it. Well, looks like that's one of my main culprits over there, huh? Thanks for your patience, Steve. It looked better before, but the sun has just been impacting it. And then I didn't notice that like phase thing comes through. I don't know. That's okay, huh? I got to get rid of that Samsung business too. We don't want that. Let me try this. I got my easel here, you know? That's what's blocking it. This is the old easel for the whiteboard, you know? That's the easel. Made by Papa. Made by my dad. Just like the desk you're seeing here. Both of which made by my dad. Well, that's better. Not so bad. Not quite as bright. I blocked the sun. That's not bad. Good morning, Breakup Gang. We're still early. We sure are. Thank you, a Bitcoin Deb. Good afternoon, Space Droppers. Oh, shit. I actually got a really good clip yesterday with all the details of Felix Baumgartner's space drop and terminal velocity and all this stuff. It just came through my feed. Don't ask me why. It's not like I look up space drops all the time, is it? Good morning from San Diego. Good morning, Glenn. Hope you're doing well. Jumper, DCS World from the Tabasco lands. Boy, did we crush some Tabasco. Here we go. Every day walking with Christ, saying, I'm looking at my comments here. Good morning, Nolan, and all you maxis. 80s in Wisconsin. The sun is up, the flag is down, and Bitcoin is running. Loving the pants. Well, shorts. Come on now, shorts. We don't wear pants when it's 80s, right? And thank you for giving us the heads up there every day walking with Christ. Let's have a coffee and talk about what's new. Wow, what a screen view. I'm excited. Yeah, well, we're doing our best, guys. We'll see how it goes. It's a new experiment. This is the screen I've been meaning to use. It was in storage. It's a very old TV, so I don't know if that makes a difference. Old, it's like 10 years old or something like that. But we'll see. We'll see how it goes. I have a few slides up and a video that I hope works, that I've produced. I hope the video works. We'll see. Watching from the R train, Edwin. We love the R train. You're heading into Brooklyn, I guess, right? R is the Brooklyn. I didn't go that way. I was a G train, E to the G, E to the G. Sometimes J or Z if I went that way, but not generally. Not generally. I was a professional skydiver for 20. Oh wow! And I jumped with Felix. Well, then you know all about it. I didn't. That's a very interesting story, Jumper DCS World. Yeah, I guess he hit something like he broke the speed of sound, right? You know, he was further than that. Fiat programming slide, indeed. What's a TV? Oh my goodness. Yeah. Isn't it funny when does anyone have that experience when a boomer visits your house and you don't have a TV? And they're like, well, where's your TV? Where's the TV? I don't know. I don't have one. What do you do? So good. People who refuse the vaccine responsible for 200 famous Fauci. Yeah. So good. All right. Let me get my notes up and see what's up. See what we got. We know we got extra Moscow time. There is no resistance up there and no control. Yeah. I'm not jumping from. I wouldn't jump off of a high diving thing. You know, I don't like jumping. I'm not a fan. Not a fan. All right. Here we go. What do we got? Where's it hot? Where's it hot today? It's time for Moscow time. Where's it hot? Where is it hot? Let's find out. According to Time magazine, the first heat wave of the season is bringing triple-digit temperatures, guys, earlier than usual to much of the Southwest. It's still hot in the Southwest. The Southwest, can you believe it? It's June, and Arizona is hot in America. Whoa, Arizona. But Associated Press letting us know here that new study finds Earth warming at a record rate, but no evidence of climate change accelerating. Are we going to hear more about this one? Maybe not. Maybe not. The Associated Press, though, saying no climate change acceleration. No, it's not accelerating. That's okay. But even if it is, you know, this used to be a conspiracy theory. People used to say they don't seed clouds. They don't do any of that with the chemtrails. Do you know I even had Max Kaiser laugh at me once for talking about chemtrails? By the way, 2019, I'm in a speaker green room with him, and I'm talking about chemtrails, and he said, "Are you having a stroke?" And I said, "What? People are talking about this stuff. People are talking about it." He asked me, Max Kaiser asked me if I was having a stroke for talking about chemtrails in 2019. Look how far the world's come, you know? I don't know anything about it, right? But if we got the climate change problem, right? If you're all stressed out about climate change, researchers at the University of Washington are studying a concept called marine cloud brightening. It's marine cloud brightening, okay? Marine cloud brightening, which aims to slow climate change by spraying clouds with just a bit of sea salt. It's just sea salt, guys. Don't worry, it's just sea salt. It's fine. It's just sea salt. No big deal. No big deal. But, you know, if the sea salt in the clouds and the, what do they call it, the marine cloud brightening doesn't work, right? If the brightening doesn't work, Bloomberg Green has this. As cities deal with rising temperatures, a crew of chief heat officers are comparing notes on solutions that work. We talked to 5 of them. Chief heat officer. I'm the chief heat officer. Who wants to be the chief heat officer of Montreal? That's my job. I want to be the chief heat officer of Montreal or Canada or Vermont or anywhere super hot. It would be great. It would be great. Okay, now for all those people who, you know, don't believe in science, well, we got some science. The Telegraph, but this is the kind of science I like. You know what my favorite science is? Whatever agrees with me. That's the only science that's good. All the other science, no good. The Telegraph, COVID vaccines may have helped fuel rise in excess deaths. Oh. Experts call for more research into side effects and possible links to mortality rates. These are the good experts. These are the experts we like, right? We don't like the experts who are like, we can't tell anything about the vaccine. What happened? I don't know. We like the ones who agree with us, right? I want the expert economists who are like, Bitcoin is great. We love those ones too. Those are the best. This is just a funny headline, right? This is just a funny headline from the New York Post. Remote Amazon tribe connects to Elon Musk's Starlink internet, become hooked on porn and social media. Oh, we heard yesterday the plan for, I don't know if it was climate change or something else, but it was all of, oh yeah, living longer. The plan to live longer for men. Cut your nuts off. Okay, cut them off. That's what the fake news said yesterday. Cut your nuts off. You want to live long, forget about exercise, forget about eating right. But if you're not willing to go that far, maybe you can squeeze out with the nuts that are left. Maybe you can squeeze out just a little bit longer if you take this approach, right? The Washington Post saying male birth control has loomed as a long-standing quest. Recently, a combination of hormonal topical gel has shown promise by suppressing sperm production in a shorter amount of time than experimental products tested in other clinical trials, right? We also got Time saying a men's birth control gel has returned promising results in phase 2 trials, but a lack of funding for further testing could prevent it from getting into the bedroom. So just cut them off, guys. Come on. You'll live longer. Don't worry about it. All right. The Washington Post. This one's good. All right. This one's good. Hold on. My new setup here has bothered me with one little thing. I can't see your comments as well as I'd like. There we go. There we go. I want to be a thunder officer, Hammer, so I just jammed Thunder's truck all day long. Nice comments. We love it. We love it. We love it. Yeah, weather modification is a real field. It's one, and it is, honestly, I'm a big fan of weather modification, just as long as we know. I'm not against weather. I believe that's the business of the future, as far as I'm concerned. Geographic. We'll talk about it today. I'm going to show you a trailer that I created, and it's a lot of my stories have terraformation. That's what terraformation is, right? Just weather modification. I'm all about it. Okay, this is good. So this starts to get into our theme, but we're not going to get there yet. This is Jennifer Rubin from the Washington Post saying, Donald Trump has relentlessly smeared witnesses, jurors, and the judge. Incarceration is the only punishment. They want him in jail. So good. Do it, please. Go. Egg them on. We love it so much. Oh, this is great from the Atlantic. The MAGA faithful are once again on the internet threatening violence. This is what's good. So we're getting into our theme, right? Which is a bit of projection, but also the gobbledygook of who knows what that comes out of these high IQ experts from the mainstream media that don't believe conspiracy theories and read the Atlantic, right? What's normal language for these people? What's like I pick up the paper and I read it, right? What's going on in the Atlantic? The MAGA faithful are once again on the internet threatening violence. Polemical rhetoric is reaching further into the mainstream, portending something dark. But it will probably take time to get there, right? Polemical rhetoric, guys. Don't you worry about that polemical rhetoric, right? This one's good too from the Atlantic. European leaders believes... No, that's not the one that's funny. This one's the one that's funny. Maybe not. I thought I had two funny... Where's the other funny one? They had a really funny... Dang, well, I don't know. Maybe I misread it. I got more from the Atlantic, but they're not that great. Here we go. When some person visited 4 allied countries in Europe, he observed a sense of alarm bordering on panic at the prospect of Donald Trump's re-election. In the Atlantic Daily, some lady asked him about America's bruised international reputation. And that's somewhat similar to European leaders believe Trump's return to power could be an existential challenge. Mary Kay Coppins reports, and they're already preparing for a world in which America's retreat from NATO leaves them on their own. What Europe fears. And then finally, this one's just a nice one. This is a great way to end it, right? Here we go. Trump's greatest asset may be voters' belief that the cost of living would be more affordable if he's reelected. So Trump's greatest asset, guys, his greatest asset is that Trump's going to fight inflation. That's what I say, right? Trump's greatest asset may be voters' belief that the cost of living would be more affordable if he's reelected, Ron Brownstein writes. But economists and policy analysts are warning that Trump's second-term agenda could accelerate inflation. So now Trump is going to do the inflation. So now it's Trump. He's going to do the inflation, guys. Non-Sullen says, coffee at Tokyo Smoke. I love coffee at Tokyo Smoke. So that's our Moscow time. But we're going to go back to that theme of the Trump tweet here. So there we go. Trump's greatest asset may be voters' belief that the cost of living would be more affordable if he's reelected. And so our theme is a little bit about the mental illness and the contrast that we have with Bitcoiners versus all this mental illness, and what really are the prospects of this group of mentally ill people that are pushing fiat. What are the prospects of a group of mentally ill people winning this war, winning a battle, a psychological battle and an economic battle, right? So here we see, Trump is going to be the one who causes inflation. It's going to be him, right? But what we know from this mental illness machine that's been created is that it likes to project, right? Projection is a big part. Projection is a sign of mental illness in the sense that you can't internalize or manage the things and fears you have about yourself, so you end up projecting them outwards. It's very obvious, right? A lot of mental illness comes out in pretty obvious ways, but not to the observer. It's a bit of a quantum situation, right? The observer often can't see it. You often can't see if you're having cognitive dissonance, for example, right? You're the last person to know if you're the one being affected by it. If I'm affected by cognitive dissonance with Bitcoin, I won't be able to acknowledge it. It'll be almost impossible, right? Because Bitcoin creates so much of my worldview that if Bitcoin were to break, I would have it'd probably take me a little lag to get over it. That's one of the reasons why I always say, even when talking about Bitcoin, and I recommend this to all of you, right? I often say, but I could be wrong. I could be wrong. I could be wrong about Bitcoin. There's a chance I'm wrong, right? Maybe I'm wrong. Now, I say it almost as a reflex in order to protect myself, in order to vaccinate myself from cognitive dissonance, right? Maybe there's something I'm missing. Maybe I don't get it. Maybe I'm wrong about my predictions. That's why we share our predictions publicly. That's why we do all this stuff the way we do it. So it's important, right? But this projection thing of seeing people say something that they themselves are doing was really first advanced by Tucker Carlson. Tucker has been a huge proponent of this. He said it years ago that whatever the Democrats accuse you of doing, they're doing themselves. I wouldn't limit it to just Democrats. I think in general, you see this a lot, right? In general, you see this all around you. I've seen it with family members. I've seen it with, the people like the Karens who nag you about stuff. They're usually kind of the type of person who nag themselves about getting this done, getting that done, getting my agenda for the day, my schedule. So those are the kinds of people that are out there doing that, right? So you can see projection all the time. It's when you actually embody the things you're nagging people about and getting on people about. We can see it all over, right? Daniel says, projection explains everything the Biden regime spews out. You can see a lot of it, and a lot of it was on display yesterday, right? Yesterday, we saw the attorney general having to testify, right? We saw this attorney general. And now I didn't know the history of Merrick Garland, by the way. I didn't know that Merrick Garland was put in charge of the cover-up around the Oklahoma City bombing, like to stop questions. I had no idea. Mike Benz was talking about it yesterday, and Mike Benz said he's been basically the janitor of the deep state for years, and that's why he is in the position that he is now. And so he goes in front of the congressman yesterday, right? And so Merrick Garland, the guy who's been behind the podium of every one of these scam trials against Trump, and who has even got actions against things that I'm associated with, by the way. I saw Merrick Garland. I tuned in, CZ went to jail yesterday, right? A few months ago when the indictment began. I remember tuning in. What is Janet Yellen and Merrick Garland going to be saying about CZ when it went on TV? And then he just threw charges onto Kraken on top of it. Some of the most corrupt charges you're ever going to see in the industry. And just incredible to see it there. And I was talking, by the way, with some other people when I was in Texas that have also been indicted by these sham corrupt groups. And these folks would have been never Trumpers years ago, right? Just never Trumpers. New York City people that I knew that we're all Wall Street. And by never Trumpers, I mean never insulted completely like the NPCs about Trump, but not into the mental illness that we must all admit Trump causes, right? We all know that Trump's skill set does indeed cause mental illness. In he's the source of TDS, whether or not we like to accept it, right? He is definitely the source. And I've said it many times, Trump is expensive, right? And in 2016, he was definitely worth the cost. A little bit after 2020, you're like, well, let's try somebody else, right? But at this point, it's like, give them the mental illness. They've got other problems, right? Just load it on. It probably the only way to get through it is just to load the mental illness, and either they collapse from mental illness or not. But yesterday you had Merrick Garland in Congress saying the following, right? So this is the guy who's brought corrupt charges all over, right? Where a lot of people now think that the U.S. justice system is a complete and total scam, even folks abroad. You'll see this case yesterday in CNN, which is sort of case in point. So he says, I will not be intimidated, and the Justice Department will not be intimidated. We will continue to do our jobs free from political influence, and we will not back down from defending democracy. So he's there yesterday trying to say, of course, he's defending democracy. But everyone can tell what's going on here, right? Just like you had Biden yesterday passing this thing. So you get a corrupt justice system accusing others of corrupting the justice system and that they're going to protect it. Then you get Biden yesterday saying, I've come here today to do what Republicans in Congress refuse to do, take the necessary steps to secure our border. So yesterday you had Joe Biden saying that the Republicans are the ones causing the trouble at the border. And he's going to fix it, right? So just another great case of projection. Scott Adams had a whole list here of Biden's dementia-fueled paranoid talking points. And you can actually see this amongst a bunch of Democrats these days, right? Trump's going to steal our democracy, or dumbocracy, right? This could be the last election ever. Trump has dictator tendencies. Trump destroyed our norms. Trump brings chaos. Trump snapped. Trump is a feminist insurrectionist. Trump will be worse than last time. Trump thinks he's above the law. So you're getting all of these examples of projection, which are exactly what we see in the marketplace right now. And we see this marketplace really induce this type of mental illness all around. And when you see the contrast, right, when you see these this projection, and you see these people who are becoming more and more willing to criticize other people for having mental illness, criticize others for being extremists. This VC yesterday, if everyone saw this VC, they had, what's his name again? Vinod Khosla. So Cernovich took aim at this guy. He's a California VC. He's the nicest guy. He's so nice to everybody, except he tried to make a beach public or private, kicked everyone out, put up all kinds of obstacles so that general people couldn't use his beachfront property, and that the beach was his. So Cernovich uncovered all this. So this VC goes on to CNBC yesterday and called Jason Calacanis, David Sachs, and Chamath, the All In podcast guys, MAGA extremists. He called them MAGA extremists. Mike Solana says, embarrassing and unfortunate. Vinod is perfectly free to support the guy with dementia, but obviously many in tech will disagree. Someone close to this man should pry him away from MSNBC long enough to explain we aren't shutting down political disagreements in 2024. So it's just great to see this kind of projection. It's great to see this kind of mental illness on display. And it gets better, right? We have Time magazine, one of the most disreputable magazines in America, ran a whole piece yesterday on that with a cover. The cover is Joe Biden, right? So it's Joe Biden on the cover with his hands on a desk saying, if he wins, right? And then you should hear the kind of stuff you have in this. It's all projection. The whole article is about a mentally ill person being covered by other mentally ill journalists, trying to hypnotize and hallucinate a world where all their stuff makes sense, right? It's just a complete and total hallucination. Now, first of all, one of the quotes they're trying to promote out of it is Joe Biden saying, we are the world power. Now, remember something, and this comes from President Clinton, right? When President Clinton in the 1990s had his power sort of stripped because he lost control of the Senate and the Congress, and you had Newt Gingrich running sort of a prime minister's game, pushing legislation through. You had Bill Clinton come out and say the power of the president still matters. The presidency still matters. Because in the US system, with the division of powers and the way it was practiced in the 1990s, the president indeed wasn't that powerful compared to Congress. And it created this situation by him saying he was these things. It sounded like he was admitting he wasn't, right? When you have to say it out loud, it's kind of like having to tell people you're famous, right? Oh, actually, I'm famous, right? If you're out there telling people you're famous, guess what problem you have? A lack of fame. If you have to tell people you're famous, it sort of defeats the purpose of fame. Just like if you have to tell people you're powerful, it kind of defeats the purpose of being powerful, right? The purpose of these things, fame like power, is that you don't really need to underline it. It's acknowledged and people react in a certain way. So having Joe Biden say we are the world power is kind of funny, and it's projection at the same time. Now, the article goes on and on about, the economy, China, Joe Biden on China. Everybody talks about how strong China is and how powerful they are. You've got an economy that's on the brink there. The idea that their economy is booming. Give me a break, he says. That's his argument. Give me a break, right? He goes on to talk about aging, right? He asked whether he can handle the rigors to the end of a second term, and he says, I can do it better than anyone you know. Now, you're supposed to bluster and all that stuff, right? But imagine people taking this stuff seriously, right? We can all see what's going on. So we start thinking of the mental illness and the troubles and what these people are up to, right? You can start to see the contrast in such a way that the mental illness stuff is lacking persuasion. It's lacking in any ability to sort of get on track and change people's mind. And what's going to, is the Times picking up any readers here? Is CNBC picking up any readers or watchers? It's getting less and less, right? And it's easier and easier to isolate the signs of mental illness that we see coming out of this system. And so we can see it, sort of all over the place, right? We can see it with Tucker Carlson here having a interview yesterday talking about Klaus Schwab and their lack of ability to persuade people. And he says he's like an elderly idiot who seems a little senile, doesn't have any idea what he's talking about. The closer you get, the more you realize the ruling class things, that the people running things are mediocre, like buffoons. And we're seeing that more and more, right? We're seeing it more and more. Take the case in Germany right now, right? The whole thing in Germany is they're still on Russiagate in Germany. They're still talking about Russiagate, just sort of as we are here, but it's more clear and present over in Germany. They're still talking about Russia collusion 2016. They're still worried about Russian influence in German elections now. And so they're trying to censor people as a result, right? So Michael Schellenberger covering it today, he goes, starting in 2016, the United States government, intelligence agencies, news media, and establishment leaders in both parties warned of a vast Russian conspiracy to interfere in elections. After the election of Donald Trump in 2016, the intelligence community reported that Vladimir Putin had favored Trump and aided his election through Facebook ads, Twitter bots, and other means. The following year, Trump's deputy attorney general appointed a special counsel to investigate allegations of Russian interference, a connection to the Trump campaign, and obstruction of justice. Every major allegation proved to be wrong or profoundly misleading. According to every serious political scientist, Russia had no measurable influence in the 2016 elections. There was no flow of money from Moscow to Trump through a secret bank account. Russia favored Hillary Clinton for stability and continuity, not Trump, whom it viewed as chaotic. Then in 2019, the special counsel said he lacked evidence to charge Trump and with either colluding with Russia or obstructing justice. There's no doubt that Russia is engaged in information warfare and has been for long before its invasion of Ukraine. Nor is there any doubt that Russia would like to expand its influence over the West, if not least to restore the flow of oil and gas to Western countries, which was cut off at the beginning of the war. But there was extremely little evidence of Russia's influence over either media or politics in the West before its invasion of Ukraine. And there's even less today. Across the Western world, 80 to 90% of the public has an unfavorable view of Russia. And yet, according to intelligence and security services, the news media, the establishment, political leaders across the Western world, Russia is currently interfering in European elections by secretly bribing conservative politicians. Yesterday, the Washington Post repeated the claim, which has been made in European newspapers for months. But neither the government agencies nor the news media have produced any evidence to support their accusations, and every single individual accused of taking money from Russians has denied it. This includes German Member of Parliament Peter Bystrom, who represents the conservative AfD party, and whom I interviewed by phone yesterday. Bystrom, who is running for European Parliament, says there is no truth whatsoever to any of the accusations and the government intelligence agencies accusing because of his opposition to the war in Ukraine. So he says he'll change his mind. Schellenberger does if anything else comes up, but that's what we got. As such, Corrective's reporting, which was followed by color revolution-style protests organized by NGOs, was deliberately misleading. In fact, as we reported, Corrective, which is funded by the German government, George Soros and Pierre Omidyar, likely serves as a front group for German intelligence agencies as engaged in counter-populist disinformation campaigns, including against protesting German farmers, falsely claiming that they were far right, and held extremist views. So this is what he says. What we are witnessing appears to be establishment politicians weaponizing government intelligence agencies to interfere in Europe's elections with the active participation of mainstream NGOs and news media companies. So it's exactly the same thing, right? Accusing you or someone of doing what they themselves are doing, right? So instead of Russia-backed, it's George Soros-backed, but nevertheless, it's from an invisible source where misinformation and disinformation and election manipulation is the game they're playing, right? So that's the game. And they wonder why people are drowning in mental illness. The system itself is designed and keyed in to just lie to people, right? Which is why this thing that happened yesterday on CNN in America is so funny. So yesterday they brought in Ian Bremner, who was like an Obama guy, right? Obama cabinet or Obama administration, not in the cabinet, but he was a sort of high-ranking official. And so he goes on CNN, right? So the CNN guy is trying to talk about what the world thinks about Donald Trump. If Trump comes back, is America going to look worse, right? When Trump comes back, is it going to be a sign that America is no longer a democracy? And so this actual Democrat is trying to talk to Jim Scuto, who is obviously just another CNN talking head. Now, you can't tell if he's stupid or evil. He looks like he's on the incompetent side, right? He looks like an idiot. So he's there trying to say, well, Trump, what happened? And Ian Bremner tries to tell him, he goes, look, that's what people are saying because of Biden. And not because of Biden, but this whole thing looks like America not really being the leader of democracy around the world. And the guy, his brain just couldn't handle it, right? So a newsman says, it takes former Obama administration staffer turned CNN journalist 5 minutes to even understand the joke. It's as if he's never even considered it, right? Or maybe I had it wrong then. Maybe Bremner wasn't. And then people saying he almost connected the dots. We can see this stuff has been going on for a long time, right? We can see that this mockingbird type contrast, everyone's Hitler, we got to stop Hitler, we got to protect democracy, has been going on for a long time. It's one of the reasons why I first thought Trump was the only way to go, because he hit back. I was sick of seeing conservative people, and I worked for one in Canada, think that if we were just better, if we were stronger, politicians more Christian, they would stop. They would see that we're right? And I think a lot of conservatives from a bygone era, thought that way before they saw Trump in action. And one of the main problems with that point of view is you're not actually taking into account the mental illness. This isn't opinions. You can't get right about any of this stuff. It's just their mental illness flowing out. And there are all these examples of John McCain, right? Who nobody likes John McCain. But John McCain was called Hitler again and again and again in the 2008 election. We got it from MTV here. Madonna compares John McCain to Hitler, right? So that happened once. And then Obama camp connects the dots for Jews. McCain, Palin, Buchanan, Nazis, right? Then you get Daily KOS, John McCain palling around with Nazi sympathizer. Family Guy compares John McCain and Sarah Palin to Nazis. So it happens again and again and again, right? And it's been like that for a long time. And what I'm saying here is the projection, the desire to say this stuff out loud and to say to these other people that that's what you're doing is usually a sign that inside you're having trouble, right? Now, one of the things that it stunts having this mental illness. One of the asymmetric advantages that Bitcoiners have, one of the great skills we have because of Bitcoin, and I've put it in my book, The Bitcoiner's Guide to NPC Management, is that we can actually predict the future a little better because we don't have these mental illness blocks, right? We don't have these obstacles that are stopping us. And the reason we don't, first of all, we try that exercise that I said, maybe I'm wrong, right? But at the same time, we make predictions and we see if they come true, right? If anyone from 2008 would have started making predictions on the liberal side, on the Democrat side, and saw them fall apart and saw that their opinions had to change, it's like the raw milk. Raw milk was like a hippie thing years ago, right? And now it's not, right? Now it's a right-wing thing, right? Once you see that, once you see just how programmable people are because of their mental illness, because they really don't have a vision of the future, they don't have expectations of the future, right? That they can guide themselves by. There is no North Star. Bitcoiners have been making predictions about the future the whole time. In fact, when you first grok Bitcoin and you understand it, one of the things that happens is your vision of the future is wiped clean, right? You start fresh and you start repopulating it with things. Well, this is possible because of Bitcoin. That's possible because of Bitcoin. That's possible. I'm going to build it like this. That's going to get built like that. That's going to get built like that. Wow, Bitcoin fixes this. Bitcoin fixes everything. The reason why the meme Bitcoin fixes everything, Bitcoin fixes this exists is because people are constantly repopulating their vision of the future and fixing things because they have this new direction that Bitcoin gives them. And it's one of the asymmetric advantages we have. It's a dimensional advantage we have over fiat people because all of their vision of the future is fear, death, sucky, broken, not going to work, right? That's why this article with Joe Biden is so funny, right? If he wins. Now he might, there's all kinds of ways he can win, right? We got to admit that. But imagine this day and age trying to imagine, with all that you know about what's going on, what 4 more years of Biden would look like. It's obviously, America's dead as it is, right? There's barely anything left to save. Barely anything left to save. Whatever there is that could be saved in 4 years is obviously going to turn into shit and be garbage, right? Completely garbage. So Time Magazine, trying to imagine a future, trying to hallucinate a future out of what they've done to their own capacity to imagine the future is hilarious. It's just hilarious, right? Watching Biden like fixing global warming and fixing the economy and fixing inflation is hilarious. It's just funny. Just stop for a second and imagine, Biden, 4 more years of Biden on the campaign as leader of the free world. Just imagine he survives. What does it look like, right? Time Magazine taking their best chance here, taking their best shot at predicting it. It's obviously just for people with mental illness. No rational human being, even if you're a Democrat, but you don't have extreme mental illness, could think that it makes any sense in the real world, right? This is only for people who have no ability to predict tomorrow. No ability to predict tomorrow, no understanding of the consequences, no understanding of what's going on. And this is one of our major, major, major advantages that we have over the sludge people. The sludge people can't see past tomorrow, right? Because of the nature of their hallucinations, the nature of their brainwashing, it doesn't allow them to see what's tomorrow unless they're told, right? We see this all the time. They're incapable of doing these things. They're incapable of imagining these things. Now, that's not the only difference we have, right? That's not the only difference. We have this ability to project the future, to predict the future, to change our course if our predictions look off. They seem pretty on, right? They seem pretty on. We're getting better and better at it. We're getting closer and closer to it. But when you start seeing what's actually happening in the world, right? When you start to see what's actually happening with the economy, and the signs that are out there, you get to see these things, right? Where we've got, oh no, I went too far. Well, I'll go back to that. So you start to see things like, this is what Forbes is writing, right? Sudden US dollar collapse, fear predicted to trigger a $15.7 trillion ETF Bitcoin price, gold flip as countries go dual currency. Now, how long have we here have been telling you that this is happening? How long have we been telling you that other countries don't want to be involved with American mental illness? Why should they? Right? What do they owe America? And if you can't predict that not everyone is so caught up in American political stuff, right? Then you wouldn't see it. But we see it, right? Yesterday, for example, just in line with this, this is an article from yesterday, right? Sudden US dollar collapse fear predicted to trigger, right? We've also got yesterday the second largest day the ETF has had in America, the Bitcoin ETF. Hong Kong is having its record days right now, right? So both the ETFs are just pumping. We've also got this news out of the United States where BlackRock and Citadel are talking about a new national stock exchange in Texas to take on the New York Stock Exchange. Now, is it because are Citadel and BlackRock planning a Texas exchange because they just watched the rule of law get thrown out in New York with the Donald Trump case? I don't know. I don't know if they're directly connected. Maybe not. Probably not. But how many people predicted that important challenges to New York's supremacy in global finance would begin? How many people predicted that doing business in New York would become too dangerous, not safe anymore? From watching everything that happened with Trump's building, that ridiculous case, now the sex one and the Stormy thing, all of this stuff to watch that happen, right? And to watch all the NPC upload new talking points. No one is above the law. No one is above the law. If you're a rich person and you want to avoid mental illness, you're now steering clear of New York City. And what I see here is a Texas exchange. I was just in Austin. Austin is way more filled with interesting VCs than ever before, interesting investors, interesting Bitcoiners that are everywhere. These folks now are creating a critical mass of smart people who can predict a better future. These are optimistic people. There's no one down there in Texas saying, oh, shit, it's too hot. It must be global warming. I'm going to give up and shut Texas down. No one in Texas is saying that, right? I went to this party at some ranch somewhere, and all Texans, max guns and all this shit. These guys are waiting for someone to try and come to America. They're waiting, right, for America to fall. It's a party for these guys. So, and they don't even believe it's happening. They're investing. They're doing everything that normal rich Texans would do, right? So you're seeing all of this change very quickly, stuff that Bitcoiners have said is going to happen, right? And here we are on schedule as Bitcoiners predicted. At the same time, you've got the mentally ill who can't predict tomorrow, can't predict what's happening next week, because they can't predict, they can't even track the degradation of the systems that they're trying to promote, right? One of them here being the contrast we see in art. Now, one of the interesting things you're seeing in news, and you're going to see it in art soon. You're going to see it soon in art, and it looks like this. People like me or Tucker or Scott Adams. Scott Adams was talking about this on his show yesterday. One of the big differences you see, look at the All In podcast. One of the big differences you see are people who don't have bosses speaking up in public, right? I don't have a boss. A lot of these people don't have a boss, right? I don't have anything that I could be threatened with. I can't lose because someone said, hey, you can't say that. Not so long ago, this was true, right? Even at Bitcoin Magazine, I'll be honest, go look at the last thumbnail on YouTube for my Bitcoin Magazine version of my show, right? Go look at that, right? It's Hillary Clinton, and it's not by mistake, okay? Already a year ago, if someone comes and sponsors the show and they see Hillary Clinton, put it on Rumble, right? Put it on Rumble. This is normal in all kinds of fields, right? Company news doesn't work. You've got to be someone like Tucker Carlson. You've got to be someone like all these folks, right, that are on their own doing these shows. It's important because you can't consider all of these things that other people have to consider. Now, I understand if someone's in sales, they're worried about a client and this and that. That's part of it, right? And the business model has to be aligned. I understand if you're in a technical engineering magazine, you don't necessarily want to pick political fights, right? I get that, right? So no comment on that. It's just how the business model fits. And if you're an individual, you're able to say whatever you want, right? So I always owned my show, so it didn't matter where I syndicated and distributed, right? It was never going to change the way it was. I didn't really have a boss doing it. Where I could publish it was just a different question, right? Now, I understand the choice. Rumble is a better avenue for a lot of this stuff. The whole channel gets suppressed if you start doing too much political content. And if you don't want to just do political content, then you don't want to deal with the suppression of the channel. So I get it, right? It's not as simple as I'm making it sound, or it's not as simple as you'd like it to believe it is, right? Or it's not even, it's not even like no one's trying to be evil, I guess is what I say, what I'm trying to say, right? It's a compromise that you can understand through most circumstances. One that I was fine with living with, right? So that's what's going on. So, but because we can make these predictions, because we're able to see through some of this stuff, and because we're going more and more independent, and because technology is allowing us to go more and more independent, like just look at the ability to make your own, the ability to make your own newscasts with the technology that we have is strong and getting stronger. But the better one, the more persuasive one, the big industry that these independent people using Bitcoin are going to influence next is art and storytelling and creation. It's one of the big weaknesses that we have still, is that everyone in the storytelling business, or many in the storytelling business, have bosses, right? When George Lucas did Star Wars himself, it was a different story. He had no boss. Don't forget, Lucasfilm, before they sold to Disney, was the largest and most successful independent movie production house in the world, right? These were absolutely independent production films, especially after the first one. Now, they were distributed by 20th Century Fox, right? That's why you saw the bump at the beginning, but they were still produced by Lucasfilm. He owned them. The merchandise is what got him there, right? So it was a rare instance, and that's why the sequel trilogy, or the prequels were so disliked by some, because there was no corporate oversight. It was just whatever George Lucas wanted to do, right? I honestly loved the prequels from the minute they came out. I was always a Phantom Menace fan. I was always, right? I said I wish some things were different, right? I didn't love Jar Jar's voice, and there was a bunch of stuff I didn't love, but I loved the movie. I loved it. I went to the theaters probably 7 times, I think. I think that would have been the lowest I would have seen a movie in the theaters before these shit sequels came out, right? So I was a fan because it was immersive storytelling. It was what he wanted to do. I loved it. Now we get Star Wars, right? And this is what I mean by mental illness and the weakness that comes with it, right? So they make these movies. They switch the gender of the audience, right? The gender swap the audience, right? It seemed natural when Disney bought Star Wars. It was because it had a baked-in male audience. They already had the females with the princesses, and they went after Star Wars to get the males. But what do they do immediately? Well, they're fucked up people, so they go after more women in the audience. And now they've told the women, the men, as of last week, we hate you. Don't come back. Right? We're going to lose more. You're sexist. You're the reason why our female actresses get bullied online and can't have social media and all this stuff, right? But it's not true. And yesterday, the Rolling Stone started writing an article about how boring the new Star Wars is, right? So they write, "The Acolyte, this Star Wars prequel series isn't a force to be reckoned with. Even a veteran Jedi Master would lose patience," right? Would lose patience with the latest Disney Plus addition to the canon, which focuses on a pair of twins, revenge, and sleeping, right? So look, they wrote this and then had to take it down, right? Disney comes along and makes them take the article down. It'll probably come out. Maybe it was because they're going to say, oh, they gave away secrets they weren't supposed to give. The embargo, none of that's true. They can't handle it. Mentally ill people can't predict what's going to happen. When it hits them, they get all surprised and panicked, right? But the mental illness is what doesn't allow them to do this. Now, this show, I think, is going to kill Star Wars once and for all. And by kill it, I mean complete and total apathy. Complete and total apathy. All I want to see with this story, the only interest I have is watching reviews that torch it. Right. That's it. That's all I'm interested in. I will never watch any of these shows. And the difference here, and the prediction that I have, is that with AI and with all this tech and with Bitcoin, you're going to see, just as you saw independent newsmakers come about, you're going to start seeing independent storytellers really hit scale and really start influencing things, right? It's the reason why our entertainment is so shit. It's the reason why we're having so much trouble. So let me try. I made a trailer yesterday using AI and various other things for a news story that I have coming out. Let's see if it works. Let's see if it works. I'll put this so you can get the... Does it come out? I think so. I don't love the music too much. Fun, huh? So you're going to get to see more of this stuff, right? And like I said, having independent content creators is going to fix a lot of the mental illness. I mean, imagine what it does to have good storytelling again, things that we can talk about, things that we can join in on, things that we can have in common again, right? It's been one of the biggest tragedies of fiat apocalypse is that it's destroyed the common artistic culture, the common entertainment culture, and it can come back. It can come back, right? So that's what we're after. That's what we're after. We'll see. We'll see how it goes, guys. We'll see how it goes. So cool. Yeah, not bad, huh? Not bad. It's still a rough. The actual trailer isn't ready. It's pretty much ready, but not quite. I only have been figuring out how to use this software. I've used it to make plenty of those audio things that I make on iMovie are fine, but the formatting for trailer creation is a little different. Not as free and flexible, and I got to figure that out. And I did not love the second audio that came in, the adventurous song. So there you go. That's what we got. That's what we got. Jar Jar is the greatest Jedi to never be a Jedi. Any... Where do I sat say any input and or tips for the comprehensive framework for the Satoshi standard, breaking away from fiat to Bitcoin? Well, I would say I will be writing the Bitcoiner's Guide to the Fiat Apocalypse, and the Bitcoiner's Guide to the Fiat Apocalypse is about the archetypes that you can use to climb out of fiat. You can see a little bit of those in the episode I did about my dads and Bitcoin, fatherhood and Bitcoin or something like that. It was the evening episode we did. And that one, I think, is the blueprint that I have to break away. The Satoshi standard is a psychological calibration. And in order to get out of this pit, these archetypes are the ways you should model it, right? Because there's usually an example of someone else modeling it, so you just copy them, right? So, or you copy the archetype, right? Fatherhood, outlaw. Outlaw is a great one, right? The outlaw. The trickster is a great one. The pleb is one. The pleb is a very important one, right? Very important. Like a potato. Mash the like button like a potato. We love it. Mash the like button. All right, team. That's about all I got for today, though. Whoops. Come on, Bitcoiners, unite the likes. We love the likes. We love the likes. Lance says, Russia has been the main boogeyman my entire life. Yeah, we got to get rid of that. Yeah. Yeah. It's all gaslighting. But he flipped back on he still vetoed the crypto bill. He thought he could, the psychology industry just needs to prescribe Bitcoin as their number one theory. I agree. Inversion and projection, yeah. Daniel, it's not the money printing that's caused inflation. It's Beyonce and Taylor Swift and Trump. I wonder who Non Sullen is. I hope you're doing well, Non Sullen. Non Sullen alluding to one of the reasons why we do this show is because in a previous life, I used to have coffee in the early Bitcoin days and tell everyone at the coffee shop about Bitcoin and Trump. This was 2015, 2016. It was a cool environment, though. Who used to come in there all the time was, what's her name? She was just in, Disney Plus is unwatchable. Yeah, we don't have Disney Plus. Completely canceled. What was her name? She's in the new Batman movie. She played Catwoman, I guess. Zoe Kravitz. Yeah. So believe it or not, she is in the best Bitcoin movie ever made. And that's how we got to know each other. So I was in Tokyo Smoke talking about Bitcoin to everybody. And I didn't recognize her, but she made friends, because she would come in at the same time and we were there really early. And I guess she'd be going to shoot and all that. So she came in and would just talk to us. And what was the name of the movie again? What was the name? She made a Bitcoin movie in 2016 or something. Dope. You got to see it. It's a great movie. It's just so good. And so we would always be talking about Bitcoin and all this stuff. And Zoe Kravitz came in regularly because we were there early. And one day she talks about Bitcoin. That's how we figured out she was in a movie, because we were all blabbing about Bitcoin. I was in a movie that was all about Bitcoin. So it's this terrific movie. And I remember watching, because it starts off with a retro 90s aesthetic set in LA. And the guys are all chatting about they're hanging out, doing 90s stuff. Then he goes home and he starts talking to his mom, and he talks to her about Bitcoin. And I was like, this isn't it. I thought it was set in the 90s, right? It didn't make sense. And then they're all about Bitcoin. Yeah, dope. The best Bitcoin movie ever made. Yeah. It's really good. Dope. Yeah. That's the one I mean. Yeah, dope. So good. So she's in it. And so it's just funny. Just a funny story. That was Tokyo Smoke. It's now a big, they're great guys over there. I always got along well with them. So there you go. Dope. Yeah. And I mean, I think it was made in 2015, 2016. Dope. I mean, I met her. It had to have been 2016 that she was living in Toronto. Anyway, here, tie it all up. Here's the funny story. Lenny Kravitz's childhood home was the 2 doors down from my house in Brooklyn. Yeah, so everyone in the street knew Lenny, grew up with him. It was really funny stories. I'm attached to the Kravitz family, so there you go. Who knew? All right, team, that's all I got for today. I hope you liked the trailer. The first words in the movie are about Bitcoin. Yeah. Hey, Mom, what about Bitcoin? Something like that. But I think there was a whole release 2016. Yeah, I didn't even know it was about Bitcoin. I just watched it and I was like, what the fuck's going on here? What is happening? So there you go. Yeah. Movie recommendation. Good movie. Actually a good movie. Yeah. All right, team. Peace. Have a great day.